Hey guys, I'm Mike, and I make farming simulator gameplay videos for YouTube. So this tutorial is to show you how I create my thumbnails using GIMP and make it easy so that I don't have to do a new thumbnail every single time I post a video. The only thing I do, drag in a new screenshot, maybe make a few edits to the episode number or something like that, maybe a caption in the thumbnail, and then post it. It's really easy. So first thing you're going to do is go to www.gimp.org. If you don't already have the software, download it and install it. Follow the instructions. It's not complicated. The next thing we're going to do is we will open up GIMP. And when you open the GIMP program, it will be a blank screen here. You have to create a new image. So File, Create New. I have the 1920 by 1080 already in here, but you can drop down the templates. And I would suggest for YouTube thumbnails to click 1920 by 1080 and then click OK. You'll have a background, and you can see over here on the right side it says background. I would recommend to not delete this. It can be useful for times when you want to create a border or other things that I won't go into in this video, but it's useful to have the background and don't delete that layer. So first thing I'm going to do is we're going to go through the process of me creating a thumbnail for an imaginary gameplay series that we're just going to come up with. So since I do farming simulator videos, let's just do one for Lone Oak. There's a very popular map called Lone Oak. So the first thing I would normally start with is my title. We're going to select the text tool, and we have white selected here. And let's just go with ink free, and let's just click anywhere, and I will type Lone Oak. So there's a lot of things you can do. Let's take a look at a few of my thumbnails. For instance, my Georgetown series, which I recently started. The title of the map is down here in the bottom left corner with the episode number, and then it is a survival series, so I have that up here. And as I scroll through some of these, you notice the screenshot changes, the episode number changes, but everything else stays the same. This one has a live logo in here because this was a live stream episode. But everything stays the same. And if we go to, for instance, my West Texas series, we have the title of the map up here at the top, and then the episode number down here in the bottom left. Again, as I scroll through, the only thing changing is the screenshot and the episode number. So it's very easy to just pull in a new screenshot, change the episode number, and I am done. It takes all of about 3 minutes to do a thumbnail for one of my videos once I have the initial setup done. That's what normally takes the longest for me, is doing the initial setup. So we're going to just do a very simple one here. We've got Lone Oak, and I am going to actually increase the size of this a little bit. So I will just double click using the text tool, double click on the words, and you can just scroll up on your size. So we'll do something like that there. I'm just going to drag this to the center. Well, what I think is the center. What you can do is over here on the move tool, if you hold it down, hold the left mouse button and go to alignment, you can actually click on the background. I've clicked here once, and then I will hold shift and click on my words. So now it is selected, and I click the center tool, and it's done. It centered it up. So I like the where it is vertically, so we'll just leave it there. And then let's just put in an episode number. So we'll do we'll just do something like EP1 down at the bottom here. I'll go back to the move tool, and I don't want it jammed up in the corner. I want to pull it out just a bit there. And we may want to make that just a little bit bigger. Maybe about that 120 would be good. And then we will just move it back there. And I believe that should, that looks pretty good. Pretty even there in the corner. So I have the Lone Oak here as my title, episode 1. And so now let's just drag in a screenshot. Now I don't have a Lone Oak screenshot, but we're just going to pull in a screenshot for an example. I'm going to pull this one in here. Now I do play at 2560 by 1440 is my screen resolution when I play. So my pictures, when I take my screenshots, are always larger than my background. So what I can do is I've pulled this screenshot in here, so I can move it around if I want to adjust it. But as you can tell, the tractor is just taking up way too much of the picture. So you can go to this icon here. It's called the scale tool. And usually what I do is I'll just click on it and you can just drag it down. You'll notice up in the right corner, it is showing the width and height. So you could pull it down to, to fit in the 1920 by 1080. But what I usually do is leave it a little bit bigger. And then that way it overlaps the border some and you don't have any problems. So that does fit better. However, I don't like that. So my advice, one of my tips that I have for you is when you take a screenshot of something, don't make it fill up the image, because it just takes up, there's too much clutter around your words and you just can't discern. I mean, I could pull this down some away, but see now the edge of my picture. So I could only pull it down so far and it still is just not right. So let's try a different picture. I've just pulled a few in here. Let's try this one. Now that immediately looks much better. I don't even have to rescale that one. And to me, that looks much better. I could bring it down just a little more. Drag it down, hit scale, and then readjust it back up here. I think that looks very good. So you have your title, you have your episode number, and you have your screenshot. You could really go with that right there. That looks really good. But you could also do some things such as adding a drop shadow to your title. So we'll take this Lone Oak over in the right hand. These are all of your layers. So I've made sure that Lone Oak layer is selected. Go to Tools. Go to Filters, Light and Shadow, Drop Shadow. Click that. And we'll bring this up here. So you can play with this as much as you want. We could bring this back a little, pull the blur radius down so you can start to see very faintly. So let's pull the opacity back up to 100. And now you start seeing the dark. We'll pull it down just a little bit. Let's blur it just a little more. Let's go back off of that some. So now you have a little bit of a drop shadow. Now this font, since it is kind of thin, doesn't make much of a drop shadow there. You could really even pull the opacity all the way to 2. See how dark it gets, and that may actually look a little better with this font. And then you can adjust the X and Y axis however you want it. If you want it, if the sun is coming from the right over here, you can adjust it how you want to. But the sun is actually coming from this side of the screen, so that looks pretty good there on the drop shadow. And you click OK. Same thing, you could do that for your episode number. Now, I would not recommend doing it for your episode, because and I'll show you why. Let's do that real quick. Let's go to episode 1, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put a quick drop shadow on it. Let's blur it down Bring opacity up. There we go. Let's see. There we go. So see, you have a drop shadow on it. We're going to click OK. Okay, so now we're here. We've done our second recording and we want to go to episode 2. So here's what's going to happen. You go to your text tool, you go to change episode 2. Oh, guess what? It wants you to confirm text editing, because when you click edit, guess what happens? Your drop shadow goes away. So if we wanted to change this to 2, you would have to redo your drop shadow every single time. So I would suggest not putting a drop shadow on your episode number unless you want to fool with changing it every single time you do a new thumbnail. All right, so we have our lone oak, our screenshot. We have episode number 1. Let's say you want to throw in an arrow for some pizzazz. So if you've noticed, I have some files here in this temporary folder. You can just click on it and drag it to your picture. You don't have to import it. You don't have to file import, nothing. Just click on the arrow, drag it over, and it will show up. Now I do have 2 there. Notice, let me delete 1. Over here in the layers, just right click on it and delete layer. So now we're back to just having the 1. So you can drag it around however you want it, but say you wanted to call out, point out that this machine is, has this grapple on the front, okay? We're going to go to rotate. Let's rotate this thing like that. And then we're just going to scale it down some. So same thing, we'll click on scale. And there's a whole lot that you can do with GIMP. I really like it. It's powerful. It's free. So we scale it down. There you go. So now you have an arrow that you can call out. Let's say you want to do a live stream, or you plan on doing some live streams on this series. So we'll go back to the folder. I have a live logo that I've downloaded. Click on it, drag it over. Oh, where'd it go? We don't see it. It's because in this layers field over here on the right, you notice that the live logo is actually below the screenshot. So what you can do is pull it up. There you go. And it shows up. Now, since we are over here on this layers tool, this one screenshot is the one that we are seeing. This is the old screenshot that I pulled in that I didn't like and didn't want to use. So I can select it, right click, and delete, and it's gone. So now we're back to the live logo. So I may do some live streams on this series. So let's pull it up. Maybe we want to have it up here in the left corner so that it catches people's eye. Let's say we want to put a drop shadow on it. So pretty easy. You can do the same thing for images. Click filters, light and shadow, drop shadow. We could leave it dark. Pull the opacity up. Drop the blur radius down so you see the dark of the drop shadow is around, but let's go with white. Well, that doesn't look good, but how about we do this? Double click in the X field, go to 0. Now you have it around it. So let's grow the radius just a little bit. Could blur it just a little bit more. Boom. That looks pretty good. Stands out from the image, and you know that you are live, that this is going to be a live stream. Okay, so that's a very simple thumbnail. So what you would do at this point is file, save, and then you'll export. So we'll file, save. So we'll just change this up here to Lone Oak 1. So it's episode 1. We'll save it and then export. File, export as. And you can change this to wherever you want to change it as far as, so that is completely up to you. But so we're going to export the image, and I always export as a JPEG. So the easiest thing to do, I just leave the title the same as my episode number, so Lone Oak 1. And then I click down here to select file type by extension, and then just scroll down to JPEG, click it, and export. So now it is going to export it as a JPEG. I usually bring this up to about 95. If you go to 100, sometimes the image size can be too big for YouTube to accept as a thumbnail. So I usually go to about 95 and leave everything else as default and click export. So now if I go back over here to where we were working, here's my thumbnail, is right here. Open it up, there we go. Just that easy. So that's how to create a thumbnail. But the meat of this tutorial is how to make this easy so that your next episode, you don't have to do much. So I'll show you. So we are back here on our episode 1. So what I'm going to do is let's change the screenshot. I'm going to pull in, let's pull in this big tractor right here. Okay, I pulled it, I dragged it over, but I don't see it. Over here in your layers, we need to pull this new screenshot above the old one, and there we go. So at this point, you could delete that old screenshot because you're going to save this as episode 2. So it won't override the other one. You may choose to leave it as Lone Oak with no episode number, and then just make the changes as you go along, and that'll be fine too. So however you want to do that. So now you see we have this arrow here, the live logo, and the episode number, which all need attention. So the nice thing about this GIMP program, so I may want this arrow later in the future. I may want the live logo later in the future. There's two things you can do. You can either take away the eyeball over here in the layers, but what I like to do, just so I can manage it a little better, is I will drag these guys down below my screenshot in the layers field, and that way I know that they are not part of the image. We will pull this down a little. Let's resize the screenshot. Let's scale it about there. And you can see that stuff is under there, but we're going to just put the picture over it. Do that, and we will go to the text tool, change it to episode 2. And then at this point, we would file, save as. Change it to 2. We're going to save it. So now I have this thumbnail saved in GIMP, and then file, export as. And then we will change that to 2. And export. It's already a JPEG, so that's what we want. 95, export. It saved those settings because I was still in GIMP. If you were to come in at a later time, you would probably have to change that. So here we go. There's our episode 2. So it's that easy. Very easy. The longest it's going to take is to get the your initial template built. So however you want your title, your episode number, if you do that. If you want captions, I mean, it's very easy. We could come in here if you wanted to do a caption. So you could come in, it's like, Mega Blade, okay? We got the Mega Blade. We could click in here and just do Mega Blade if you wanted a caption, okay? And then you can move it however you want to. Whoop, that's the wrong thing. Gotta make sure I click the words there. If you wanted to put it on the blade, you could even do that. Or you could bring it down here. I wouldn't put anything in the bottom right because it's going to be covered up by the YouTube. But say we do, actually, you know what? Let's do this. We could just put it as, there we go. If you wanted to do something on this screenshot where you wanted it to point out the Mega Blade, you could put something up here like this. And then you could bring your red arrow back if you wanted to. drag it back up above the image, and then we could rescale it. Just go back over and scale. And I'm going really quick because I want to get through this pretty quickly. But you should be able to follow along and reselect it. So you could do something like that. This is very basic and it doesn't look great, I know, but this is just to show you how fast you can make a new thumbnail every time you do a video. So like I said, the initial template takes a little bit of time, a little bit of thought, kind of the way you want it to look. And then every time you do a new episode, new thumbnail, it shouldn't take you more than just a few minutes to make some minor adjustments, and then you're good to go. The great thing is, if you wanted to do edits to this image, you select the image. Let's say we want to pull some of the saturation out of this one, so we can do that too. You know, make it more of a washed out look. Very easy to do. It doesn't affect any of the words or anything else on the screen. It only affects the layer that you're working on. So that makes the red arrow stand out. Kind of gives it an aged look to this image. So this is it. That's very easy. GIMP is so powerful. There are so many things you can do. There are a lot of different options, a lot of tools. You can do anything you want with your colors. There's a lot of filters. You can do blurs. If we wanted to blur some of this image, we could do that as well. You know, if we just wanted to really make this blade stand out, we could do something like that. So it blurs the tractor and the blade just really pops. So many different things you can do with GIMP. There are a lot of options out there. Canva, Adobe, there's Pixlr. I think there's so many different options, but GIMP to me, this is what I started with. I've tried a few different things, but I've always come back to GIMP. It takes a little bit of time to get used to using it. I still don't know everything. I'm far from knowing everything that this program can do, but I've been able to use it for my thumbnails, and it has worked out really well. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it was helpful for you. If it was, please let me know in the comments below. If you would like, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate that. Give me a thumbs up on the video and let me know, is there any other features of GIMP, any things that you would like to see done, or how I do things? Let me know. I'd be glad to look into making a tutorial for that as well. Hope you each have a great day. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.